Welcome to the Global Interconnectedness Podcast. I'm your host, and today we're examining the significant developments of April 2025, a month that witnessed profound shifts in the global economic and political landscape. This April, President Trump's sweeping new tariff policy sent shockwaves through international trade networks, while escalating tensions in South Asia and the passing of Pope Francis reshaped diplomatic and religious dynamics worldwide. Today, we'll be exploring these critical developments, their interconnected impacts, and what they reveal about the resilience and vulnerabilities of global cooperation systems in this unprecedented time. April 2025 marked a decisive turning point in global cooperation. The month opened with President Trump's declaration of a national emergency over foreign trade practices, followed by the implementation of a 10% baseline tariff on all U.S. imports and even higher, reciprocal tariffs, on countries with significant trade deficits with America. This abrupt policy shift triggered immediate market volatility, international retaliation, and warnings from the WTO and IMF about potential global economic contraction. Beyond economics, April witnessed the passing of Pope Francis, initiating a rare papal conclave and a period of religious and diplomatic transition felt across multiple continents. In South Asia, a deadly attack in Kashmir that claimed 26 lives dramatically escalated tensions between India and Pakistan, raising alarm about potential military conflict between nuclear-armed neighbors. Yet even amid these disruptions, international collaboration persisted in areas like climate action and space exploration, as demonstrated by the Fram-2 private spaceflight mission and major sustainability conferences. This resilience reflects the complex, multidimensional nature of global interconnectedness in 2025, where economic decoupling can occur alongside deepening cooperation in scientific and environmental domains. International organizations played a critical role in responding to April's economic and security shocks. The WTO issued urgent warnings about the reversal of decades of trade integration and called for emergency consultations among member states, emphasizing the risk of permanent fragmentation in the international trading system. The IMF's April 2025 World Economic Outlook not only revised global growth forecasts downward, but emphasized the need for countries to promote a stable and predictable trade environment. The report specifically called for policies that support healthy aging populations, labor force participation, and productivity growth through better integration of migrants and mitigation of skill mismatches. The United Nations facilitated discussions on peace and sustainability amid ongoing conflicts, while the World Bank highlighted risks to global growth and the need for decisive policy action to safeguard trade and address debt vulnerabilities, particularly in emerging economies. Meanwhile, specialized organizations like the Climate Group and EarthX advanced climate action through major conferences, and the Doherty Water for Food Global Institute convened experts to address food and water security challenges that transcend national boundaries. These efforts demonstrate how global cooperation continues through institutional channels, even as bilateral relationships face increasing strain. April 2025 saw a convergence of security crises with potential global implications. Most concerning was the rapid escalation of tensions between India and Pakistan following a deadly attack in Kashmir that killed 26 people. Accusations of state-sponsored terrorism and warnings of imminent military strikes raised fears of conflict between nuclear-armed neighbors, drawing international concern and urgent calls for restraint from global powers. In the Middle East, the conflict in Syria continued to simmer, with significant clashes between pro-Assad insurgents and government forces resulting in hundreds of casualties. The situation remains volatile, with ongoing insurgent activities and counterinsurgency operations affecting regional stability. The month also saw the passing of Pope Francis, triggering a papal conclave with significant diplomatic implications. The Vatican's extensive international role means this leadership transition will impact interfaith dialogues, humanitarian initiatives, and diplomatic mediation efforts around the world. On a more positive note, the FRAM-2 private spaceflight mission marked a milestone in international space cooperation, demonstrating the growing role of private actors in areas traditionally dominated by state powers, and highlighting how security cooperation can continue in some domains despite tensions in others. Asia found itself at the epicenter of April's global shifts, with both economic and security dimensions. China now faces a cumulative 54% U.S. tariff rate and has responded with 125% tariffs on U.S. goods, dramatically escalating the trade war. Japan's exports were hit with a 20% tariff, prompting an unprecedented national crisis declaration from Tokyo, while South Korea and Southeast Asian economies scrambled to adapt to the new trade realities. The WTO has warned that the expected collapse in U.S.-China trade would severely disrupt decades-old supply chains across Asia, with knock-on effects for manufacturing hubs in Vietnam, Malaysia, Thailand, and other regional economies integrated into global production networks. Meanwhile, India-Pakistan tensions over Kashmir underscored the region's persistent security vulnerabilities and the critical need for international mediation mechanisms. The proximity of two nuclear powers with a history of conflict raises the stakes of regional disputes to global significance. Despite these challenges, Asia's role in global interconnectedness remains vital, with regional organizations like ASEAN continuing to advocate for dialogue, economic integration, and stability. The region's response to these dual economic and security pressures will shape global cooperation trajectories in the coming months. Technological innovation continued to shape global connections even amid economic and security disruptions. The FRAM-2 mission, operated by SpaceX, achieved the first crewed polar retrograde orbit of Earth, conducting scientific research on our planet's poles and space environment. This mission highlighted both the growing capabilities of private actors in space exploration and the importance of international scientific collaboration. The U.S. tariff policy included strategic exemptions for certain technologies like advanced semiconductors, recognizing their critical role in national security and global supply chains. However, the broader impact on technology markets was significant, with major tech shares posting steep declines as investors reassessed global innovation networks. Social movements also continued to influence global cooperation, with climate justice, racial equity, and labor rights gaining momentum at international gatherings like EarthX 2025. These movements increasingly shape both public discourse and policy approaches to global challenges, emphasizing the need for inclusive and equitable solutions that address interconnected economic, social, and environmental issues. Digital connectivity continues to facilitate global civil society networks even as trade relationships fragment, demonstrating how technological interconnectedness can operate independently from formal economic integration. Environmental cooperation proved remarkably resilient in April 2025, even as economic and security tensions mounted. EarthX 2025 brought together thousands of leaders from government, business, and civil society to discuss sustainability challenges and solutions, while the U.S. Climate Action Summit advanced climate innovation and green finance initiatives. The Water for Food Global Conference addressed the critical nexus of food security, water management, and climate adaptation, emphasizing practical solutions and research-driven approaches to shared global challenges. These gatherings demonstrate how environmental interconnectedness transcends geopolitical tensions, driven by shared planetary boundaries. The FRAM-2 mission contributed valuable environmental research by studying Earth's poles and atmospheric phenomena, reinforcing the link between technological advancement and sustainability goals. This cross-sector collaboration shows how scientific cooperation can continue even as trade relationships deteriorate. Despite global economic headwinds, momentum in climate finance and sustainable investment continued, with new cross-border initiatives announced to support green infrastructure and clean energy transitions. This financial interconnectedness appears more durable than traditional trade relationships, suggesting a potential path for continued global cooperation. Looking to May and beyond, several critical questions will shape global interconnectedness. Will the U.S. and its trading partners find a path back to dialogue, or will the tariff war deepen and potentially trigger a broader economic downturn? Can Asia's tightly integrated economies adapt to the new trade environment without major disruption to regional supply chains? Will diplomatic efforts succeed in de-escalating tensions in South Asia and preventing military confrontation? And can the momentum in climate action and sustainability persist amid economic headwinds? Key events to watch include upcoming WTO emergency consultations, potential IMF interventions to stabilize currency markets, diplomatic initiatives to address the India-Pakistan standoff, and the conclusion of the Papal Conclave. The G7 finance ministers meeting in May will provide the first high-level forum for coordinated response to the tariff situation. For businesses and policymakers, the coming months will require navigating a more fragmented global landscape while preserving essential cooperative mechanisms. Adaptation and resilience will be watchwords as international actors assess which forms of interconnectedness to prioritize in an increasingly complex environment. April 2025 has reminded us that global interconnectedness is both fragile and remarkably resilient. Economic shocks, security crises, and leadership transitions can disrupt even the most established systems of cooperation, yet collaboration continues in domains from scientific research to environmental protection. The most important trend to monitor: whether nations can overcome rising protectionism and conflict to rebuild trust and advance shared goals in areas of mutual interest. As we conclude, consider these questions. How might international organizations adapt their structures and approaches to rising policy uncertainty? And what role should emerging technologies and social movements play in shaping the next era of global cooperation? Thank you for joining the Global Interconnectedness Podcast. We'll continue tracking these developments in the months ahead as the world navigates this pivotal period in international relations. Until next time, keep questioning how our world connects.